Hey, we're live. All right. Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh, are you having the best day ever? I know I am. Can you believe this is day 4 of the Joypreneur Summit? And is this interview 7 on day 4? Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, what a day it's been. Yeah, she's still going. She's like the Energizer Bunny. I love it. Come on in. I see you out there. Come on in and say hello. Remember to let me know where you're listening in from. If you have questions about human design, now's the time to ask. Tell me about your business. I want to hear everything. Have you gotten any nuggets from the other interviews today? It's been so fun seeing. I know Ellen and Laura and Rose, you have been posting all the different freebies that you've been grabbing. Tell me more about that. This summit is off the hook. Like, am I right or am I right? Yeah, I'm right. So let's begin because we have a lot to cover. And it's like that old, I'm going to date myself if I quote like Smokey and the Bandit, but we have a long road to go and a short time to get there. So let's do it. If you have not been getting your freebies and you're going, what? Freebies? It's because you have not been clicking on the link in the description. If you look in the link in the description, what you're going to see is you're going to see a way to get not only Julian's free gift today, but also the gifts from all of our different speakers, not just today, but the whole summit, and not just the speakers, but the sponsors too. So we're talking like 40 items that you can get. You can pick and choose, but it all starts by opting into that link in the description. And I know that you're hearing all these people and you're going, man, they're cool and I want to hang out with them and this is so fun. And I know you do. So it's time to join the Positive Mindset Entrepreneurs Club now. Now is the time to join. Day 4, last day of the summit, limited time offer. This is going away. When you join, you get the pen of expectation. Everything you write with it will come true. And yes, I do ship it worldwide. And if you're already in the club and you're saying like, I want that pen too, where'd you get that? Look at the post I made yesterday and you will see how you can get the pen as well. So, and thank you for everybody who's commenting, right? You're getting so much out of this. So good to see you again in here. You just took a quiz. Helen, you're so great because you keep coming in with your update on what you just did. And I love it because there's so much good freebie stuff, right? And we're discovering about ourselves and we're learning different things. And right, I am right. Thank you. That's the best thing you can say. Dana's right. And yes, hello, Ecuador is in the house. This is great. Okay, now sit tight because I am going to loop back around and we're going to talk about Julian. I'm not kidding when I say we've got a lot to cover because Julian has just so much wisdom that he is going to share with us right now. He is a spiritual life and business coach, and he primarily works with gay men over 50 and spiritual entrepreneurs. And the thing that how I got introduced to him is he's a member of the Accelerate Network, which some of you know is the higher end of mastermind that I have. But because he specializes in human design, I started working with him in human design. I became one of his clients and I started learning human design. And I'm telling you something, it has just broken open some serious knowledge about who I am in the world, how I can get my message out in a bigger way, and all of that good stuff. And so I'm really eager to talk with Julian today and dig into this a little bit. We have so many things that we can cover, and I want you to put your questions in the comments too. But without further ado, please help me welcome Julian Crosson-Hill to the summit. Woo, the crowd goes wild.
Hi, Dana. So glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. We're going to have such a good time. You know, I'm just going to have a true confession on human design first, and then we're going to figure out how to dig into it, okay? Because I know for years I would go out and I would see like these places where like, get your human design chart. And so you go and you get your human design chart, and then I would look at it and I would go, oh, looks so confusing and so overwhelming. And I would never do anything with it. So I literally did nothing with it for just decades, right? And then you came along and I really started figuring out what it was and what I had in my hands with that chart. And it blew open my mind. And so maybe we can start out by just telling people what human design is and then take it from there.
Yeah. So human design is a system that was it's a revealed system, and it involves a combination of astrology and the I Ching and Kabbalah and the chakra systems. And like the simple way to explain human design is it's the energetic blueprint of your vessel. And your vessel is, this physical body, it's your aura, it's the life and the purpose and everything that you kind of bring to this incarnation. So when we say vessel, we mean more than just like this physical container. We mean sort of the whole energetic beingness of this incarnation. And so human design is kind of a blueprint of what that looks like, and kind of helps you understand where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where you receive conditioning from other people. And in human design, conditioning is anything that pulls you away from who you are authentically at your soul essence. So, all the junk our parents put on us, all the junk society and marketing and everything else puts on us, that's all conditioning. And so human design is about understanding our conditioning so that we can strip that all away and really live authentically in alignment with our soul essence.
Yeah, I really like this word authentically. And I think, this is where I would like to come from and start talking about in this particular interview. So it feels to me like what you're saying is when you know your human design and you take a look at your chart and you understand the different pieces of it and what it is, it really allows you to know what you were meant to do here, like what your purpose is, so that you can start to show up as yourself in a bigger way.
Yeah, exactly. Like human design, it gives you tools for making the most aligned decisions. It gives you tools for understanding what your strengths are, for understanding who you really are underneath all the conditioning and all the stuff that gets put on us. And so, that once we understand our chart, we understand like our foundation of who we are, and we can always return to that, in any situation. Whenever we get kind of pulled away from that, we can always return to that foundation. It's like having a touch point that we come home to.
I love that. Now, everybody who's listening, you may not have your human design chart now. And so just know, as soon as we're done with this interview, you can go do a Google search, find it online for free and get one. But I was thinking something happened the other day in the Accelerate Network, and it made me wonder if this wouldn't be a good thing to chat about today, Julian. We had somebody who was having an issue feeling deserving. So they were not feeling deserving, and they were thinking that this was sabotaging their success. And so they came in and we all chatted about different things. And then Julian came up and said, well, that might be because your center is open, and then gave an explanation about how it might be normal. Now I want you to talk about that. But the thing to know when we're talking about these centers, when you get your chart, is some of the centers will be white and some will be colored in. So it's very easy to read what we're going to share today. And right now we're going to talk about the white ones, the open centers. And so can you explain, like somebody who doesn't feel deserving, an example of how, which center, what would it be called, would be open, and how's that work?
Yeah. So open centers are so first of all, just generically, open centers in human design, each center has kind of a function or an area of life that it influences. And when you have openness in your centers, that's where you receive the most energetic conditioning from other people. Open centers mean that your access to the energy of that center is inconsistent. You experience those themes in a different way each time. And that means that you're very influenced by other people's energy, and you're very influenced by the transits of the planetary bodies through the different parts of the human design chart. And so, in our openness is where we amplify and we take in other people's energy and we sort of amplify it and mirror it back. And so part of the conditioning field is that we start to misidentify that as our own energy. So when you have human design, sometimes it's called the heart center, it's also called the ego center, is sort of our seat of like our sense of worthiness and feeling deserving of things. And for people who have that open, they often receive conditioning from other people around that around that area of feeling worthy or feeling deserving. So they tend to take in other people's sense of unworthiness or other people's lack of feeling deserving and amplify it, and kind of mirror it back. And the problem happens is that we start to think that that's our own stuff that we're feeling and experiencing. And so, one of the things I always like to talk about is that, there's this idea that, your thoughts, your thinking, um, like um, my words just went away. So our thoughts kind of create our emotions, and our emotions sort of calibrate what we call the magnetic monopole, which is the part that kind of attracts all of our opportunities and our people and all the different things to us. And so the first thing to understand is that we're all inherently deserving. We're all born with the same level of worthiness, all born with an inherent deservingness. And so we need to get that in our noggin, and be thinking that. And the more we think and reaffirm, I'm deserving, I'm deserving, I'm deserving, the more we'll start to feel it, because we'll start to create that emotion. And so when we do that, we're connecting to that, like that essence of who we are, as opposed to accepting that conditioning, accepting that unworthiness that other people around us are feeling, and amplifying it.
I love this. Just to give people one more example, because it's something that affects both you and I, because we both have open head centers, the center that's the head. And
Yeah.
so, and I think this is something probably, many people who are here experience the same thing. Can you talk about what it's like if somebody has an open head center, for example?
Oh my gosh, yes. So people with an open head center, they're like a big antenna, or a satellite dish, and they're just sort of receiving things like inspiration, ideas, questions. And so people with an open head center often, like, there's constant questions, how, what, who, why. We're always curious, and we're always wondering, and we're just thinking, 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 and receiving all of this like inspiration. And the trick is, with the open head center, is to realize which questions are your own and which are other people's questions. Because there's a tendency to all these questions popping into our head feel like we have to answer them all. And if they're not our questions, they're not our, the questions that it's our purpose to go out and answer, we're just spinning our wheels and wasting our energy. And one of the really, like, and that can be kind of the downside of the open head, but one of the really amazing gifts is you really have a lot of discernment in an open head center, of like being able to see other people and know who's inspiring and who's not, because there's a lot of influencers, and a lot of, I'm a coach, and we all know in this industry there's a lot of people that sort of put on appearances, and they seem like they're really inspiring and really have a lot of wisdom. But that open head center really helps us like dial in like who really is, and who's just kind of putting on the act.
I love that. Now, I gave you these two examples because you can just go out and get your chart, and you can start to look at which sections are open, and you get an idea of what we're talking about here. Because I think what it's given me getting involved in human design and really looking at is it's almost given me a little bit of a North Star. Like, I've been able to go, when you can look at your human design and you can go, okay, you are a natural at this. You have this innately, you are a natural at this. You are a natural at this. I can start to go like, oh my gosh, I can build my whole business around that. I don't have to do these other things. And is that when you're working with other clients, is that what you're finding human design is giving people? Is it a self-discovery process? Are they using it to move forward? How, what are the benefits for people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that, like, it's that whole North Star, and being able to, like, I find that human design for me was a permission slip to run my business my way. Because you become an entrepreneur, and there's all the people telling you everything you should be doing, and you should do this, and you need to do that. And there's all those coaches out there, buy my system. If you're not doing LinkedIn this way, you're never going to make it. And and all of that stuff. And human design gives you that, like, grounding in your own energy to be like, no, that's not for me. That's not what I need to do. And I'm a manifesting generator, which is one of the energy types in human design. And manifesting generators are known for being really multi-passionate. They get an interest and they go all in, and then they might do that for 6 months, and then they might move on to the next thing. They might keep doing that. They're multitaskers. A little bit of a chaos goblin. And people who have watched me run my business know that I am always doing a million things, and they're like, I don't know how you are keeping that straight. It's carefully controlled chaos. But when I first, before I discovered my human design, before I learned about being a manifesting generator, I thought it was ADHD. I thought I needed to maybe take meds or something, because I was like, man, I'm all over the place. I don't focus on one thing and just really stick to that. And I thought this was a problem. And when I actually learned that this was a strength that was ingrained in my energetic blueprint, I started to learn how to use it in my business. And it's really allowed me to achieve a lot of things in my business that I think, when I saw it as a negative, I would have never been able to do.
I am so glad you mentioned that, because it makes so much sense. I will venture to bet that there are so many things and so many ways that people act naturally that they're getting labels for and being told to fix and be giving systems to manage this thing. And it turns out like it's actually really how you were designed. Like that is such so good that you just mentioned that. We actually had somebody on earlier today who was talking about her human design being a responder. And of course I can identify, because that that's one of my triggers as well. And when I realized I do better when somebody, for example, on the show writes into the show and says, I'm having this problem, can you help me with it? That's my natural state of being. I want to just respond when somebody needs help. It's much easier for me to do that. And so it kind of gave me permission to just continue to show up in that way and just go. So I just love all the direction we're headed with this. So if somebody is hearing this and they're thinking like, how do I get more involved in human design without being overwhelmed? If I'm not going to get a coach and I'm not going to learn that way, what would be the best way you would say to somebody, like, how could I start to know what my personality type is like?
Yeah, I think so. At the core of human design, the place we always start with human design is something we call our strategy and our authority. And our strategy comes from our energy type. And our strategy is exactly that. It's our strategy for making the most aligned decisions. It's our strategy for how do we move through life in a way that naturally supports our energy type. And so you can go out and Google, there's lots of stuff out there about the strategy. And so learning to embrace your strategy and really understand your strategy is like first. And then authority is kind of slightly modifies our strategy. It's a little bit about how do we find the best timing to make our decisions? How do we make sure that our strategy is really working with our energy? And so some authorities are very spontaneous, where some authorities need a little time to cook to make the best decision. And so understanding, your authority so that you can make the decisions in the right timing, and then understand your strategy. Those are like the foundation of human design. That's always where what we call experimenting with your design begins, is with learning about your strategy and authority and experimenting with how can I best implement my strategy and authority in my life.
I love that. I love all that. And don't worry, I'm going to give you an opportunity to connect with Julian, because if you want to connect with him, you'll definitely get as much benefit as I've gotten out of it. I wanted to shift gears here just briefly, because I know you often, like your target market, the people you're mostly working with, it's people in spiritual businesses or gay men over 50. And so because we really haven't touched on this in the summit, we haven't addressed it at all, I'd like to talk about what kind of unique challenges are people in the LGBTQIA communities facing as entrepreneurs that maybe other people wouldn't appreciate or know. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely, because I think it's very unique, because when you're LGBTQIA and in business, you know, the number one thing I hear from new entrepreneurs, and I also teach coaches, and I hear it from new coaches, is this fear of being seen, of like showing up and feeling heard. And then add to it, this whole being LGBTQIA, and do I disclose that? Are customers going to not want to do business with me because they have strong opinions about that? Am I in a rural area where that won't be accepted? How out should I be? Am I being inauthentic if I don't out myself in my business? Like, all of those issues come up, that are kind of add on to that whole already existing like pressure and stress about being seen and getting your message out. So it just kind of creates this whole other layer, for those entrepreneurs.
Do you know, I'm having kind of an epiphany as we're talking here, and it's interesting because I can see where we're really talking about an authenticity and a visibility issue. How can I be authentic? I know I might be rejected. I know I might lose business come of it, but I still want to be my authentic self. How can I be more visible? How can I go big if I've got this kind of background noise that's going on? And in really, like, it feels to me, the epiphany I'm having is, I don't think we know each other pretty well. We spent a lot of time together, and I don't think I've ever so clearly thought about, like, your superpower is really helping people feel authentic and get visible. Like, be authentic themselves and get visible. Like, you're using it in so many areas of your business. You're using it in the human design area, in coaching spiritual entrepreneurs, because there are also some of those challenges with being out with your spirituality as well. I mean, it's just, and obviously with the gay men that you're coaching, all of this stuff, it's really interesting. Do you think the reason I bring it up is because I think many people here, straight or gay, feel like, yeah, pick me. I want to know how to be visible authentically. Like, what can I do to be authentic visibly? And so, what can you tell them? Like, what kind of advice would you say to start bridging that gap?
Yeah, so I think, human design's a fantastic tool for that, for really understanding that authenticity and deconditioning the stuff that makes it hard to be visible. Because, when I first started being more visible in my business and about my spirituality, there was all the, stuff from my parents about don't do that and don't rock the boat, and, stuff from school teachers, all the conditioning. And so, getting in touch with my human design and understanding what was mine and what wasn't was a huge help to starting to be visible. I also use positive psychology a lot in my work. And so, one of the things I absolutely love is the VIA character strengths assessment, which is an assessment that shows you your 5 signature strengths, based on positive psychology. And then the challenge is, okay, how can I use my strengths in a new or novel way each day? And it's super fun exercise. It's really challenging to think about, oh, like, one of my strengths is love of learning. And so, trying to think of like new ways that I can apply love of learning to what I'm doing, every day is really kind of an exciting challenge. It's a fun kind of challenge way to kind of challenge yourself, almost like a game. How can I use this in a new way? And then I think, I bring the spiritual piece in too, because I think mindset is so huge. And I'm a mindfulness meditation instructor as well. So, guided meditation and affirmations and mantra. And I also like to bring in some like ritual, because humans have been doing rituals for, for as long as we've existed. We've done things to, you know, help us like mentally use a mental model and manipulate symbols in a way that, sort of reprograms our subconscious, to work differently. And I think that ritual and meditation are really powerful tools to overcome some of those like fears and things around that visibility and being seen.
Yeah, 1000%. And then it goes like right to the core. Like, you get it. It's like shorthand, just like stories are shorthand, it's shorthand to go right to it. And so I want to touch on the mindset piece just a bit, because I wonder how, you can have the knowledge and you can say, like, what is mine, what is not, or but how do you tame the voice? Like, personally, how do you tame the voice? Because we all have that voice, is sometimes just too loud, too
Yeah.
negative. What do you do to tame it?
Yeah, so, absolutely, like that voice, it's been a journey, let me tell you. I grew up with a with a father that nothing was ever good enough. And so I carried that with me for many, many years. So I think it's really two things. So we have a saying in human design. So in human design, we believe there are 9 energy centers in the body. And in a 9-centered being, the mind is not the best decision-making apparatus. And lots of my clients, one of the big things I help clients with is overthinking. And so we have a saying in human design: the mind is not the authority. And so what that means to me, and the way that I kind of get out of that voice, is that human design is about embodiment. Our body has a certain amount of wisdom, and our energy that we're trying to align with in human design, we experience it in our body. And so I turn to like somatic practices, yoga poses, meditation, heart coherence, meditation, things like that, and tap into my body more. And what am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling in my energy field? And that's how I kind of get out of that overthinking and hearing that voice going, is to come back to that embodiment piece.
Julian, that's so powerful and it's so true. Like the body doesn't lie. You can always feel it in your body, what's going on. If you just listen to the wisdom that's there, like this is 1,000% true. So much good stuff. I mean, obviously we could do a 24 24 interview summit with just you talking about human design. Don't I know it? Because I'm so fascinated by it. I just keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of it. But I want to just say before we leave, like if you could give a parting shot to everybody. Let's say you've got like a message to the world. Maybe it's a daily practice, maybe it's something they can implement today, but maybe it's just like a message you want to leave everybody with, that they can say like, this is it. This is the thing. What thing would you tell people today?
Yeah, so I think my parting message, I'm going to be a little woo with it because I think it's super important. I'm all about it, authenticity, and I think it's hard for people sometimes to be seen as who they really are. And in human design, there's this process that happens when we incarnate. So in quantum physics, there's energy can be a wave or a particle, and the whole incarnation process is our soul is out there as energy, wave, rippling along, and it gets this idea, hey, I want to do this thing and I want to incarnate on earth to do it. And so it collapses that wave into a single point, and that single point then reaches out to the consciousness of the earth and says, hey, I want to incarnate on earth. And the earth says, okay, here, let's create a vessel for you. And those two vessels come together with the magnetic monopole, and it just create this like amazing magnetic being. And the reason that you're here is because your soul wanted to be here, and because the earth wanted you to be here and do what you're meant to do in this life. And so whenever you're feeling like I'm not enough, I can't show up, I'm afraid of being seen, just remind yourself that the consciousness of the earth and the consciousness of your soul conspired to bring you here in this time and place to do the work that you're doing.
How many of you either feel like crying or have goosebumps? I can't decide between the two because that was just so powerful, like incredible. I'm going to re-listen to that section of the interview over and over again to be reminded of it, Julian. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was just so juicy and so good. I appreciate you being here so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dana. This has been a lot of fun. I always have fun hanging out with you.
Yeah, you too. I know. Like I said, seriously, we could do 24 hours of just Julian because, human design, it is rich and it is juicy. But when you take from it really that core piece that he's talking about, that you are meant to be here. You are doing what you are meant to do. You were in physical for a reason. Like what's going on here? Well, you know what? You can speak with your authentic voice. You can be your authentic self. You can get more visible, and it's okay to show up as you. And it's more than okay. In fact, like you're here for a reason. That is the meaning. And so it's exciting. All the pieces that he said, like getting into your body more and understanding that some of the things that you think are negatives, they're probably not even negatives, because guess what? In fact, for sure, They're not negatives because they're you. They're probably the way you were designed to be. And so, how can you start to leverage those things? Like, it's really just so exciting when we start thinking about these things and going down the rabbit hole of human design. And I'm going to tell you something. I have been getting so much joy from learning human design. So, if you do nothing else, and you go get a free chart and you just re-listen to this interview and look at the few things we talked about, or do some Googling and study a little bit, you will get a lot of richness just studying on your own. I can tell you that I am working with Julian. I'm learning personally about myself. And even if you do one session with him, you will benefit greatly of getting the big picture and understanding, how it all works. And so he has made it easy to say yes, because he's giving you a 20% discount and a coupon on a 60-minute session to actually really understand that foundational reading, really understand your human design. How do you get that? You know how. You know what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, go look for those links in the description, because if you go in the description, you are going to get access to that coupon and all of the freebies that everybody on this summit is offering, as well as our sponsors. So if you're ready to take that deep dive and really understand what your authentic voice is, what your design is, what you are meant to do here, and how you're meant to do it, and really fall more in love with yourself. Be okay. The things that you criticize yourself for actually are probably your biggest assets, and you just don't even know it, right? In addition to all those other freebies, you also get the freebies from our sponsors. So, for example, today we have Tracy Hess. Tracy Hess has got a quiz where you can go identify your hair type. Now, obviously, you're going to get a bunch of advice from identifying your hair type, but one of her things that she's got, if you have a hard time wearing barrettes in your hair, believe me, you got to go check out Tracy Hess, because she has some kind of miracle barrette that never falls out. And especially if you're like me with straight hair, you got to check them out. Before I leave, I have to make sure and mention some of Julian's favorite mantras. I'm a money magnet. That's one of my favorites too. Who doesn't love I'm a money magnet? Yeah, baby. And here's another one. I easily attract clients who need and want what I offer. Yes, these are so good. All right, go check out Julian's and understand how to use your unique energetic blueprint. And when you come back, we're going to be 28 minutes, top of the hour. I'm going to be live here again for the final interview. Oh no, not the final interview. I'm going to be here with Marian Solis. She is a financial breakthrough strategist. She's a mindset coach. She's got over 2 decades of experience. She helps women rewrite their money stories. And it happens through identity level transformation. So kind of got a theme going here, don't we? Definitely come back for Marian's interview, which is going to happen here in 27 minutes. Remember, when you join us and you get to hang out with all these people, like, wouldn't it be cool to just be able to tag Julian and ask him something, or tag one of the other interviews we had today and just ask him something? Well, if you sign up for the PME Club right now, guess what? I will send you the pen of expectation in the mail, and I do ship worldwide. We're having some fun now. Let's go out with a bang. Join me, 27 minutes, top of the hour. I will see you here for the final interview of the Joypreneur Summit. Bye, everybody.